The Frothy Friday Business Podcast. It's been a while. We've had Christmas, we've had New Year's. Thanks to everyone joining in on TikTok as well. We're streaming on everything today. So I'm super excited about getting into today's Frothy Friday, mainly because we have a heap of questions. So I'm just going to wait for a few people to jump on. There's always a few people in the audience that want to jump on and have a chat. But basically, the premise of the Frothy Friday Business Podcast, for those people who are just tuning in, that are brand new to what we do here. Essentially, it is we just answer questions. So if you have any business type questions that you'd like me to go ahead and answer for you, please let me know. For context, I run a social media marketing agency and have been running it for several years now. And yeah, I also have the YouTube channel, this podcast, and talk and bits and pieces. So yeah. So if anyone has any questions, just let me know in the chat and I'll answer them. But we're going to start with the questions that we had sent in. We're going to start with answering those. I'm just going to turn the lights up a bit. There we go. So the first question we have is actually from, just let me bring it up. The first question we have is actually from, we're going to answer the first question we got, which is from Two Piece John Jones. If you're watching, thank you so much for your support of the channel. You are an absolute OG, an absolute mensch of this channel. So the first question we have is, Happy New Year's to you. Where is this question? Wait up. Here we go. I found the question. So the first question we have is actually from, where are you? I wrote it down. Here we go. Yep. So self-improvement, another absolute OG of this channel. He asked, great for you, mate. You're very good at this. I have a question though. How can I receive criticism without hurting my ego? Absolutely great question, because it's something I mentioned in one of my previous videos. It was something I really had to work on to get better. Get better in my 30s. That was one of the things I wish I taught myself in my 20s. And that was not getting defensive when people gave me criticism, because essentially I missed out on a heap of opportunities in life by not taking criticism well. You know, people would have constructive feedback for me and they give me their advice, ideas, and I would just ignore them. I would just essentially go, no, that's not for me. Sorry, you don't know what you're talking about. And I missed out on so many amazing opportunities, mentoring opportunities, business opportunities, life opportunities for finding genuine mentors. G'day, social as anything. Thanks for tuning in up on TikTok there. Hopefully you get something out of this, mate. So criticism. So how I got better at taking criticism and taking constructive feedback is trying to understand the lens it's given to me in. So in this business, when you do client-facing type work, you're going to get feedback from clients, positive, negative, but mainly the negative ones are the ones that trip people up. So what I usually do is when I get some feedback that may be criticism and maybe something I don't want to hear, I basically take a step back from the computer, take a step back from the situation, or just sit there and pause and take a mental breath. And I go, is this person doing this because they just want to bring me down? Or are they just doing this because they have my best interests at heart and they want me to get better at what I do? And because of that, it's made it a lot easier for me to go, actually, this person just wants my best interests at heart. And what that does, what actually happens when you get criticism is you go into fight or flight mode. So let's say, for instance, you're working with me and I go, oh, look, sorry, Johnny, your work's not really up to speed. I expected more from you. You instantly go into fight or flight mode, which takes you from your conscious decision-making, critical thinking part of your brain to the part of your brain that is designed to protect you, which is the reptilian part of your brain. And because of that, what happened? Yeah, Johnny's not having a good run here. He needs to do better. But you end up in your reptilian part of your brain, and you don't make conscious thought in the reptilian part of your brain. Its only job is to protect you. And the way it does that is by releasing adrenaline and causing you either to fight or flight. And depending on your upbringing and your ability to do that, most people will take flight, but some people will take flight. So when you receive criticism, that your body does exactly the same thing as if a tiger is chasing you through the savannah. it goes, okay, well, this criticism could hurt me. And we don't want that to hurt me. So we essentially go into fight or flight mode, and you can't think critically in that part of your brain. So what you have to do is go from fight or flight back to the conscious part of the brain. And the way you do that is by going from oh crap to okay really quickly. Now, the best examples of this are actually politicians, because politicians, they get up on stage, to do a press release, and they get absolutely smashed by everyone. Every person that is there at the press conference is asking them tough questions, and they are absolutely amazing at going from oh crap to fight or flight back to conscious thought to be able to craft a response. And that's why politicians always sound like they talk so well. They're able to do that like that. Go, oh, this guy's attacking me, but it's not really a big attack. Oh my God, Haru, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. It's really awesome to see you, Ag. So what we got there? Yep. So they go quick, and because of that, they're able to craft a response. So I've just taught myself over time to go from oh crap to okay really quickly, so I can start to think, is this person actually attacking me, or is this person trying to help me? And because I've been doing that, it's made it really, really easy for me to listen to criticism now and take it in the spirit it's intended, and then start to formulate conscious thoughts about, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Oh, they're trying to help me. Okay, I better listen and take it in. That is something I wish I learned in my 20s. Honestly, it's the biggest thing I wish I learned in my 20s. So Haru goes, "G'day, Brods on TikTok. How you doing, buddy? Business podcast. If you've got any questions about running a business, let us know, and we can answer them in here in real time." Haru, awesome to see you in here, mate. It's finally nice to see you in real time. And I did this live stream for you. So if you've got any questions, let me know. But yeah, that's self-improvement. That's how you can handle criticism better as a business owner or as a human being. That's how you can handle criticism better, is just learn to go from oh crap to okay fast. And there's a really good book on this called Just Listen. That's the book you need to read if you want to learn how to do it like a politician does, because they are the shining example. As much as we don't like politicians, they are the shining example. Lennon, thanks for joining in the chat, mate. Appreciate you jumping in here. But they're the shining example of how to go from oh crap to okay really quickly. So I'm going to go with the next question we got here. The next question is from Placidity of Nature, another supporter of the channel. Thank you for jumping in and giving me your support. Lennon, thank you for the wishing bottles. I'm still new to TikTok and how that works, but I appreciate you and your support. So in my last video, I talked about keeping up with the Joneses, and Placidity of Nature goes, keeping up with the Joneses sounds like a horrible way to live. How did you get out of that? And that's a great question. So in my video, I talk about how keeping up with the Joneses is not all it's cracked up to be. So for context to anyone that's new, that's watching this, we've lived the American dream. We lived the American dream, I should say. Houseboat, cars, investment property, caravan, holidays, the works. And what I found is that trying to keep up with that is an incredibly stressful and incredibly fruitless way to live. And if I could do it all again, I wouldn't have bothered. Honestly, like, it's not fun to sit there and try and keep up with your mates and your friends that are getting bigger boats and bigger cars. And now I have to get a bigger boat and a bigger car. And so the way I got out of doing that, and the way I got out of that cycle, is to really think about what's important in my life. So up until about 5 years ago, the most important thing in my life was making money. And I'll be completely honest and transparent about that. That was maybe even just a couple of months ago. That was the most important thing in my life. The reason we grew a 7-figure agency is because I wanted to make money. And I wanted to tick the box because I grew up incredibly poor. I grew up in poverty. And my mum was a compulsive gambler, and I grew up in poverty. So I wanted to tick that box and go, I have made it. The problem with keeping up the Joneses and trying to use money as the goal is that it's a never-ending thing. You can never have enough of it. Once the thing is, and a lot of people won't tell you this, is like, let's say you make let's say $1,000 is a huge amount of money to you. And for a lot of people, that is. $1,000 is a huge amount of money. I'm at the point in my life where $1,000 isn't as big an issue for me, right? But this time 5 years ago, it was. Now, the difference between $1,000, $10,000, $100,000, a million is just the zero on the end, and it's relative to how much you have already. So for me, the difference between making another $1,000 is sort of less relevant. And the problem, where the problem starts to come, is like, where do you stop with that? When is it like, okay, well, a million is less relevant to me, 10 million is less relevant to me. There's no end to that cycle. And so what I did to get out of keeping up with the Joneses, I just changed my mindset and went actually, what is important? And I had, to be fair, what would be like a midlife crisis, because we're on this trajectory with the agency about going to second figures and getting bigger and bigger and hiring more people. And we just turned on a dime and went, actually, that's not the path we want to take. And that's a pretty scary place to be fair. But we basically said to ourselves that money isn't everything. As long as you've got enough to live and live comfortably, then you need to stop at that point. You need to stop at that size boat. You need to stop at the car and go, I'm not playing this game where my friend gets a new car, so I have to get a new car. Or my friend has a big boat, so I'm going to have to get a big boat too. We just said we're not playing that game anymore. And we kind of checked out of the American dream. And right now, we are just not participating in it. We've literally sold everything we have. We sold the boats, the car, the caravan. We sold it all. And my life has never been better, honestly. It's so, there's so much less stress now. Right now, there's so much less stress than when I had all that stuff. Because the problem is, to keep up with the Joneses, you have to work really hard. You have to make a lot of money. To make a lot of money, you have to work really hard. When you work really hard, you don't get time to enjoy anything. So now that we've gotten rid of all the toys and gotten rid of the keeping up with the Joneses and just checked out, life is so much better. And, it's allowed us to get on this trip. So practicality sake and pragmatically, how do you get out of the cycle of keeping up with the Joneses? Well, you have to just put a flag in the sand and go, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not keeping up with the Joneses. I'm not going to play this game anymore. And then you start to formulate a plan of attack around that. That's essentially what we did. It took us almost 8 months, 9 months, but we had a plan. We decided, okay, we're not going to do this anymore. We sold the house, we sold the caravan, we sold the boat, we sold everything we had. And we said, we are going to go traveling, because to us, traveling is more important right now. Spending time and investing in experiences is more important. I got a boy who's 7 and a boy who's 8. They're not going to stay that age forever. And I want to make sure that they go into their teenage years when they want to spend less time with me. I want to get what I want out of them before they don't want to spend any more time with us. So that's why we're going on this trip and we're building these experiences, because we'll get that experience that gets the fulfillment that I want out of them, and then they get the trip as well. So Will, good to see you in the chat, mate. Thank you for tuning in. Amen. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are like that don't think about the consequences of just chasing the American dream and what it has on children. And then Haru, traveling is the best experience. Honestly, it is. Like, we are financially, business, kids are all young enough in a position where we can just go sell everything and travel. Now, I understand that not everyone is in that position, and not everyone is just able to uproot the whole thing they have and just move. But you've got to find what that purpose is. And if you can't find that purpose, then you'll never get to the point where you have some end goal. Because money is not an end goal. Money is just a vehicle to achieve a goal. Again, I talk about this from the point of having money. This time 7-10 years ago, I didn't have that. I didn't have money. So it's easy to talk now in retrospect. But essentially, the way I look at money, and I've always looked at money, is that it's just a representation of hours. Money is just a paper representation of time. Because they tell you money buys time. The only reason money exists is because back when, before modern era, talking ancient times, they used to, if you grew, say, oysters, and I had sheep, and you wanted sheep and I wanted oysters, and I didn't want your oysters, well, how would you trade the time that it takes to grow the oysters and the time it takes to have the sheep? So that's why currency was invented. so that there was a medium exchange that everyone trusted, that they could put and go, well, look, I don't want oysters right now, but I want the representation of the time and energy it took for me to grow those sheep if I'm going to give them to you. And that's what money ended up being, is like, okay, well, I don't want your oysters, but I want to be paid for the time that it takes for me to grow these sheep and look after these sheep. I'll give you these sheep if you give me that representation, so then I can go and buy someone else's representation of that time. That's all money is. And people forget that. And, so $100, right? You look at $100 and you go, okay, well, that will take me 5 hours to make, say, for instance. So whenever we go and buy stuff, we're then going, okay, well, whenever I buy stuff, I go, okay, well, this is like represents 5 hours of my time, say, for instance. Do I really want to spend a fifth of 15 minutes of my time on a coffee when I have to spend 15 minutes making that money back? Then it starts to put it in perspective that actually it's like a base level, and everything starts to have true value because it's represented in the time it takes you to earn that money. And that's a pretty empowering thing, because you go look at those Air Force Ones that are a couple of $1,000 or whatever, a pair of shoes that are a couple of $1,000, and go, do these shoes, are they really worth the exchange of 27 hours of time, 27 hours of my working time to just buy? No. And I think that's what people don't understand about money, is that it represents your time and your time on this planet. So you can either use that wisely or you can just squander it. Now, Will has a question. He goes, Funny invested $5K into turning my ute into a traveling office. I still want to hustle, but I want to live 2 hours a day on my laptop and the rest of the day living. It's a great of money. Again, this is what people don't understand, the difference between an asset versus anything that's not an asset, for lack of a better term. So you've invested $5,000 into turning your ute into a traveling office, right? That is a great investment, because the time that represents, you will get a return on that time, and you'll multiply that time, and the money is the representation of that. So if you're driving around and you have a mobile office in your vehicle, and that's an hour that you're not making money, and now you're making money with it, you can represent the multiple that will give you in time back. Say, for instance, that you can use to then buy either more time or lifestyle or products or whatever. But yeah, it's a big thing that people don't understand about money, and it's why people in business seem to have more success generally in life than people that have never run a business. When you have when you're in a business, everything represents time. Everything is a representation of time, and it's a representation of how much you spend to make that. So when I'm looking at buying things, and I'm looking at whether I'm going to afford to buy this product or I'm afford to buy this, the first thing I'm thinking as a business owner is like, actually, is this going to give me a return? So when I bought this new camera that I'm filming this in, that's 4K, it's like, okay, well, it's a $500 camera, which is a lot of money. Sorry, I've lost connection on here. Just 1 second, guys. Should be good. Okay. Just give me a sec, guys. Hello. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. So money, like I said, this camera I bought is $560, right? Which is a lot of money. And I don't care how much money you have, spending $560 on a camera is a lot, considering there is cameras that are cheaper. But the way I justified the cost is like, okay, well, will I get a return on my investment by spending $560 on this camera? Well, it being 4K allows me to take this footage and repurpose it into YouTube and other channels. So, of course, that's going to give me somewhat of a return. Now, how much that return is will really depend on a number of factors. But that's the way I look at this stuff. It's like, this microphone was $180. And it's like, well, if my audio is good, will I get a return on that money if I get more followers, get more likes, whatever? If I grow the brand because people can hear me properly? Well, yes. So, okay, well, then I justified the return in some other way. And you'll rarely see me buy anything that doesn't give me some form of return on investment. But Will, I think a ute is a fantastic a vehicle for getting somewhat of a return. You just have to make sure that you hustle to get the return. So we got another question here. Where are you? Question. So the next question is from Reenash. Hopefully you're watching this. You go, I had a question, and people talk about changing their beliefs and identity all over YouTube and in books. And I get that is one of the most important things in one's growth. But how do you change something that you believe in? For example, I barely get positive reply messaging and cold calling. So I have the belief that cold calling doesn't work because I've seen people cold call and book appointments left and right with similar scripts. And I've tried perfecting my tone and elongating words and modulating voice to put emphasis on calls. But if it's spending time on an offer, I really want to believe it works. And there are any way to change beliefs, look reality, expecting currently. I have, and just keep going and keep pushing. It works. I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is how do you change your beliefs? What actions or things do I need to take to change my belief? No one talks about this. It's a great question. It's a little bit convoluted, but basically, Reenesh is asking, how do you change your beliefs? Like, what can you do to change your beliefs to make them align better with what you want to achieve, right? So it's a really, really good question because I mentioned earlier, I grew up in poverty. I grew up really, really poor, and I grew up in a family that was sort of destined to be like that. And I grew up in an era that was disadvantaged, and I was disadvantaged. But I had the belief that I was going to achieve something more, and that's what carried me through. Now, how this applies to something like sales or something like business, where it's like, I'm doing these cold calling, but it's not working. I really want to believe it works, but my actions are saying different, is that your brain is a super powerful thing. And a lot of the subconscious beliefs are different to the surface beliefs that you put on them, right? So you may say that you believe that cold calling works, but subconsciously you may not believe that it works. And a perfect example of this is what happened to me a week ago. So g'day, Edis, Joel. So thanks for joining and tuning in. We're talking about business here. If you've got any questions, just let me know and I can answer them. But what happened to me this week changed my idea about changing beliefs. So I'm a big guy. I'm 120. Well, actually, I'm 117 and a half. So let's talk about firm beliefs here. But I am a big guy. And I've always been a big guy. And I always believed, it's genetics or whatever. I went and got hypnotized. I literally got hypnotized. There's a person over there. Ashley got me. There better not be a person in there. I've locked the doors. I got hypnotized the other day to curb my eating. I said in New Year's, I was like, one of my goals is to get under 100 because it's been a long time. It's been like 12 years since I've been under 100 kilos. And I said to myself, how am I going to do this if I sit there and I can say on the surface that I want to lose weight, but there's something else that's not changing. Otherwise, I would have done it already. I go to the gym 4 times a week, but I overeat. When I come home, I'll eat a heap of food. So I went and got hypnotized for it. I said, well, I've got nothing to lose at this point. Something's on this. I can say everything I want to on the surface, but then nothing's changing. So anyway, I got hypnotized to curb my eating. And all I can talk about is what I experienced during that hypnotism and how it's affected me after. So during the hypnotism, she sat me down. She told me everything. Anyway, she told me she was going to speak to my subconscious. And I was like, okay, whatever, do what you must. So anyway, she spoke directly to my subconscious. She put me in a state where I was super relaxed and she wasn't speaking to me. It really felt like she was speaking to my subconscious. Anyway, she said, she told my subconscious that eating, you don't need to have. Yeah, look, Cat Queen could be just shit, but it worked for me, right? So, she talked to my subconscious, talked about eating and how you don't have to protect me by eating so much. Anyway, it's been a full week since I've had the hypnotism, and I'm drinking almost 7 liters of water a day. which was from about 500 mils. My portion sizes have significantly decreased. And I'm not talking like, oh, I'm just conscious of it. Like subtle things like I don't notice it, but my wife does. I'll be eating and I'll put my fork, knife down and take a drink of water, then pick my knife and fork up and eat. Sit down, knife, dun, 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 dun. And it has slowed down my eating a lot so that my body has time to catch up and say, oh, you're actually full now. That's impressive in itself because that's never been me. And that's never been me since the day I was in the Navy, because when you're in the Navy and you get told you got half an hour to eat all of your food, you just go, just eat until you can't put any more in your mouth. The third thing, and then that's been really good because it slowed my eating down. I recognize I'm full earlier. But the thing I think that really made a big difference and that I noticed that has a tangible, like something you can really, really notice, is that the day of and day after and up until this day, I haven't had a single drop of caffeinated drink, whether it's Coke or Pepsi or a coffee. I've had a coffee every day for almost 10 years, every day. And I'll drive 30 kilometers to get a coffee every day. After that criticism, I literally went from getting a coffee every day to not having a coffee in a week. And I had massive headaches. I had physical withdrawals. I had massive headaches. I felt like crap. G'day, JDF. Not much is going on, man. We're just talking about some of the beliefs that people have that affect the actions they take, especially in business. Haven't had a coffee in 10 years. I've had a coffee every day for 10 years and I just stopped. To me, that's a sign that my superficial surface level beliefs are different to the subconscious beliefs. And how that applies to you in business is that you're going to have beliefs that have been ingrained in you since you're a kid. And you can say everything you want on the surface. You can say that I'm going to be successful, I'm going to be rich. But if subconsciously and if psychologically you don't believe that, then you never will. And it is true, you know. And the way you get around that is by educating yourself. The way you teach your subconscious that and change your belief is by education. And what I mean by that is that if you go and don't believe that you're going to achieve something in life, you don't believe that you're going to be that subconsciously, reading a book, understanding and getting a fundamental understanding of how it works will slowly start to change that. And then your actions reinforce that belief. So, and I can only speak it for myself. This time 3 years ago, I had no business. Now I have a 7-figure marketing agency, and that's in a 3-year period. And that's because I came into this going, I'm going to make this succeed. Started reading, started learning, started understanding the foundations, and then my actions reflect what I was learning. And because of that, my subconscious trusted my superficial beliefs and went, okay, well, this is, you got to remember, right? You got to remember that your body has one job. Your subconscious mind, which is 95% of your actions, has one job, and that is to protect you from danger. You are have been programmed over a very, very long period of time, over multiple generations, to have a part of your brain that is designed to protect you. And you can't just change that on a whim. You can't just consciously think, I'm going to become a millionaire, when your subconscious mind is going, well, actually, my job is to protect you. And the last 30 years of life, I've kept you alive by not being a millionaire. I'm not just going to, we'd change. And people don't appreciate how powerful that part of it is to you. But again, I could talk about that all day, but that's not what this is about. It's about business. I just believe that self-limiting beliefs from a subconscious level is what drives most people. That's what stops most people from achieving pretty much anything. And I'm not talking like, think it and feel better. I'm talking about doing hard work and going, I want to become a millionaire. Well, it's not just going to happen because I've said it. It's going to happen if I learn how to do it and teach my subconscious mind that it's actually safe to become a millionaire. It's safe to take all this information in, safe to change the processes, change my thought processes, because that's actually a safer path than the path I'm currently on now. And the caffeine is a very good example of that, because when she hypnotized me, that's all she was doing. Anyway, let's move on. We've got a great question here from Senshi. If you have nothing, neither skills or a good network, what would your first priorities be? This is a great question. So let's go back in time. Let's say I have no skills and I have no network. I am just being dropped on the planet, like Terminator. I come in a big ball and I get dropped on the planet, and I'm naked, standing there with no money, right? Let's say that's the situation. Okay, so you don't have skills, you don't have money. The first thing I would do is get some skills. You can't. Good evening, Ramon. Thanks for tuning in, mate. We're just talking about if you had no skills and no money, you're a broker, you got $0, what would you do? This is exactly what I would do to get to the position I am in now. Because I've been thinking about this a lot, because I reckon now in my life, I could start with zero again and get to this position quicker than what I did now. So the thing with building a network is you have to provide value to a network for it to be of any kind of value to you. And so if you have no skills, you're providing no value. And because you're providing no value, no one's going to provide you value in return. So to answer that question in short form, get skills. Now, the biggest thing I hear is like, how do I get skills if I got no money? I can't buy courses. That is a load of crap. And I'll tell you why. So I have this, I get a lot of people asking me to mentor them, informally, formally, in all kinds of different situations. And I was helping this kid, and he was like, kept telling me all the negatives that were happening in his life. I can't do this because my computer broke. I can't do this. I can't do the outreach because my computer broke. I basically laid out how I got to where I was and kept saying, oh, computer's broke and I can't get internet and my internet. I was like, dude, you're just making excuses at this point. I go, I guarantee you there's a public library within 5 kilometers of where you live, right? Go to the public library, go and get a free library card. Awesome. Thanks, Ramon. Thanks for jumping in, mate. Go and get a library card. Go down to the fucking library and go and start to teach yourself some skills. And he was like, oh, but it costs money. It takes time to get a library card. I was like, dude, like anyone is going to stop you from entering a library. If you turn around and said, oh, look, I don't have a library card yet, but I really need to learn these skills, I'm sure any librarian is going to be just happy to have people there. And and study. That's right, JDM. And study. Go there and go, what do I want to achieve in life? I want to start a business. I want to become a marketer. I want to do whatever. Go there, start to learn. Get on the internet and start to unpack how to learn. Now, I think the biggest problem people have is they don't know how to learn properly. They've been taught a certain way to learn at school, and that way they've learned does not work in the real world. The best way to learn is through experience. If you can't get experience, the best way to learn is by simulation. And I'm very dead sincere about this, because I didn't even finish year 10 at school. So I couldn't rely on a tertiary level of learning to get to where I am. So what I did, right, to learn, say, search engine optimization, which is the biggest part of our business, is I basically looked at the tools and that people use, and I went, okay, well, if they're in the tools, I need to learn all this stuff means. And I just started Googling stuff. So that's what I would do first. I would go, get more IQ, get some more life IQ. It's, books are an amazing way to do that. The internet's an amazing way to do that. YouTube, there's so many channels. There's some people out there that don't like books. Go and watch YouTube. There's some people that learn better with books. Go to the library. Literally everything. People don't understand that when I was at school, we used to have to go to the library and read an encyclopedia. There was no Google. There was no Wikipedia. There was none of that. You basically went to the library, went to Encyclopedia Britannica, I want to learn about elephants. Okay, you go to E, you look up elephant, and you read the 3 paragraphs I have about elephants. And that's about the learning you had on elephants. People don't realize that's how you used to learn things. And it's a sort of a forgotten art. But let's get back. So you got some skills, right? You've started learning SEO. You started learning Google Ads or something like that. Some practical skill that will help you get some kind of income, mechanical work, whatever it is. Now, this is where you can start to get your network. So I'm right here, right? I'm pretty honest and transparent, and I'm pretty open. My email address is everywhere. If someone that had no money came up to me and said, Jimmy, I'm starting to learn how to do SEO. All I want is a little bit of your time. I've just got some questions, or, if I could just throw some questions at you, I would 100% give you my time. All I would expect in return is some value. And if that value was potentially helping me out at some point in the future or whatever, but people don't the biggest problem people have is they're too afraid to ask for things. They don't have the balls to go, oh, there's Jimmy over there. Oh, he knows a bit about marketing. Maybe if I just say hello and introduce myself and provide a bit of value. Haru is a good example of this. Red Star is a very good example of this. The reason I talk to Haru regularly is because he provides value. And we have, because of that, I try and provide value in return. It's called a neuron deficit, a mirror neuron deficit is what it actually is. G'day, buddy. Thank you for tuning in. Tyler, we're just talking about if you had no money, what would you do and no skills, what would you do to start making money? That's what we're talking about at the moment. So yeah, I would get some skills, go to the library, get just some core skills. They don't have to be polished. You don't have to have any experience. And then I would start to simulate it. There's so many groups out there, so many Facebook groups, so many just circles and networks and things like that, where you can just go and practice stuff. G'day, buddy. Thanks for tuning in. You can just go and practice things, right? So a good example of this is I just got off a Mentoring Monday call, which is basically a video that I do on Mondays where I just talk to someone that's in the audience that wants some help. And we were talking about sales. And he was asking me, how are you so good at talking? I was like, dude, go and look at the first videos I ever made and see how absolutely shit I was at talking. Honestly, if you want something to do, go back to 2020, 2019 on Facebook and look up some of my Facebook Lives. And you look how terrible I was at talking. I have spent thousands and thousands of hours now talking because it was something it was a skill I wanted to get better at, because I knew that if I could talk better, then I could make more money. Yeah, JDM, I do too. And people don't realize it's a bit of a lost art. And he said, oh, I'd love to be able to talk like that. How do I get good at that? And I was like, dude, just practice. Just talk to yourself. Just get on Looms and just talk about what you're doing in the day. You get better at stuff by doing it. There's no way around that. There's no theoretical person that's better than someone that's got practical experience. And people seem to forget that for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's the same with skills. You just got to practice them. And if you have to offer your services for free to be able to practice, then so be it. Now, Sensei has a follow-up question. Yeah, that's one of my problems, is taking action, really putting everything together I learn in practice, and just asking for help of a mentor. Dude, I can guarantee you that imperfect action is significantly better than perfect action. Significantly better. Because by the time you take perfect action, the opportunity is gone. You've got to just jump in with both feet sometimes and go, I'm ready to do this. Let's just get it on and crack on. There's only so much you can learn about something before you get pushed out of the nest and have to take action. So dude, if you take one thing from this today, is start taking action. Go, I know enough. Let's just put it into practice. So JDM Life on TikTok says, people only talk to their friends, but I tell them to talk in front of people and practice. Dude, I keep saying, dude, I don't mean to say that all the time, but this is all profound stuff. This is why I love doing the lives, because I love talking about this and I learn things as well. You're exactly right. I watched this guy, and he mentors students in business. He's a very successful businessman, and he takes like 5 or 6 teenagers in cohorts and teaches them business skills. And one of the things he teaches, and I'm going to do this because I think it's an amazing thing in practice, is he takes students and tells them that you have to go and ask for something for free. So there's kids that walk into, and he says you don't go to small businesses because that's not what we're doing, but you got to go into like a Woolworths, a big chain ice cream store, and just go, can I have that ice cream for free? Can I have that ice cream for free, please? Or can I have that chocolate bar for free, please? You're not going to lie. You're just asking. Out of those 5 people, 4 of them got free things just for asking. How crazy is that? And most people aren't willing to just ask the question. And I see this all the time with people with discounts, right? I'm notoriously bad for that. Even though I've got money, I still will ask for a discount if I feel like I can get one, because there's no harm in asking for something, right? You're not going to if you ask for something, no one's going to pull a double barrel out of the back of their back and go blow you away. It's like, no, that's the absolute worst thing that can happen to you. If you ask for a discount and someone says no, your life doesn't change. Your life doesn't get worse. It's just such an insignificant thing. But people are so scared of asking for things like discounts and asking for stuff. And that's comes down to a lot of what you're taught when you're little. But if you want to get better at anything in life, just start getting out there and doing it. And if that is talking, or it's subtle things, right? Rainish was talking about how self-limiting belief in sales. Does he have that self-limiting belief in sales because there's areas in his ability that he's not confident in, which then subconsciously doesn't, his body is trying to protect him from those situations? Well, the best way to do that is just push straight through them, honestly. And that's the way you get to the point where deals just start to fall into your lap. Things just start to happen. Opportunities start to arise. The better I use talking as a very good example because a lot of people don't know this. And I'm going to post a video. Harry, you're going to love this video. I've got a video from 2012 that I did at a tech startup weekend. So this was 2012. So 10 years ago. And you listen to me talk then versus how I talk now and how nervous I was versus how confident I am now in front of a camera, you will see what 10 years of practicing talking will do. And I think sometimes it's important for people to see the journey as opposed to just the end result, because no one starts like where they are now, like everyone has a journey. And a lot of people don't know this, but yeah, JDM, I think anyone that's got a bit of age behind them will know this, that if you look, you get embarrassed when you look at your 20s. Like, I can't watch the full video that I'm going to post next week. I can't watch the full video. It embarrasses me. I'm embarrassed of me by me. And I shouldn't be, because it's part of the journey. So Falsey asks, thoughts on David Goggins? Yeah, he's an interesting dude. I mean, I've read his book and I follow a bit of his content. He's a really, really interesting dude. I mean, the guy has a level of perseverance that is unmatched. That's definitely, you can't argue with that. So with David Goggins, for those who don't know, is he's a guy, he's an ex-Navy SEAL. Ex-Navy SEAL? Yep, ex-Navy SEAL. He's overcome a lot. He was overweight, grew up in a very poor family, drugs, things like that, to become quite a motivational guy. And he runs ultra marathons and things like that. Just a really, really awesome dude, and has a very, 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 very high level of tenacity. So he's really good. I like what he's about, but I feel like there's a mix of folklore in there somewhere, and it may not be, but I can't relate to him. And as bad as that sounds, I can't relate to him. It's the difference between, say, Alex Hormozi and David Goggins, right? Because they're both successful. They both have really awesome stories. But I find I relate more to someone like Alex Hormozi or someone like Joe Rogan than I do, say, David Goggins, because I don't have his level of tenacity and persistence. And because of that, there's a disconnect between us. Awesome dude, super inspirational. But yeah, I just find that if I had to listen, if there was like 3 people on, one of them was David Goggins and one of them was, say, Alex Hormozi, I'd be listening to Alex Hormozi. But nothing against the guy, because the guy's an absolute beast. Now, Sensei has a follow-up question. Another problem is getting overwhelmed with so many businesses that I don't even know what the right thing is for me or what will get the most from me. How do you not get banned from swearing? Yeah, there's no answer to that question. But to answer your question, Senshi, basically, this is a really, really good question. And essentially what you're asking here is like, how do I get overwhelmed and not get FOMO when there's so many potential opportunities to make money out there, on the planet? You got SMMA, you got digital marketing service, you got affiliate marketing, you got brick and mortar businesses, you got all these opportunities. That's just in digital space, reselling, arbitrage. There's 7 I listed off that you could do tomorrow, right? So how do you go, there's just too many choices? Well, you stick to your lane and you do one and you do it well. If it's not the best one, there's so much time in your life, you can always switch. You having 1,000 IQ? I don't know about that. But yeah, you stick to one and you stick to your lane and you just run that lane. You run that race as best you can. And then the skills and if it's not the right lane, so say for instance, if I could go back again, and I've been very public about this, if I could go back again, I don't think I would have started a digital marketing agency, if I'm completely honest. The amount of time, effort, and energy it takes to run it, there's probably better ways to make money. But that hasn't stopped me from doing the best I absolutely can at it and sticking to it and making it the one thing I focus on. Because, and this is a lot of people won't say this, but it's not wasted time. The skills, the things that I've learned going down this lane and finishing the race, the skills that I've learned have well equipped me for the next thing that I do. So let's say the next thing I do is drop shipping, right? Well, the skills that I've learned, even though I haven't made as much money as I could have given the amount of energy I've put into the agency, you sure as hell know that if I do drop shipping, I'm going to be one of the best drop shippers out of there because of all the skills I learned. And then JDM Life says, if I could go back to 1969, I would restart my life. Yeah, me too. There's so many inflection points in my life that I wish I'd done differently. It's part of the reason I make the videos I do is because guys like you, Haru, yourself, Senshi, anyone that's watching that has time on their side, you can learn from people like JDM Life, like from people like myself that have a bit more experience. And I create these videos so that there's a little bit more, I can reach more people with that experience and go like, dude, don't try and chase 7 things at once. Just focus on one thing and do it really well so that you're the best at it, even if it's not the thing that you're going to end on. That's all I can say. There's so many people that are like this close to hitting the gold. They've been picking away at the mine and the gold is only this far away from them. And then they go, oh, there's a new shiny object, and they just get back out of the mine and go somewhere else. The person that just digs that little bit further gets all the results. And it's like everything in life. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten better and better at it. Because when I was like 18 and 19, man, I wanted to do everything because I had the stamina. As you get older too, it's like it goes to the point where it's like I can only handle one business right now. My brain can only handle one business because it's hard work. But trust me when I say that you can get distracted and you can look at the shiny objects and look at what you're missing out on. How much do you know about starting an SMMA? Hugo, great question. Well, I've got a 7-figure marketing agency. Look up my online guy. This is it here. Where is it? Back of my shirt. My online guy. Look it up. I've got a 7-figure marketing agency, so I can pretty much answer any question you may have. Because I'm living and breathing it. So if you got a question, Hugo, just leave it in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them. But yeah, stick to your lane. Make sure that you do one thing really well. For me, it was SMMA and digital marketing. That's the one thing I tried to do better than anyone else. And if the agency disappeared tomorrow, the hard skills that I learned doing it, I'm going to keep forever. So if I was to start an automotive, let's say for instance, right, with what I learned now, I wanted to go and start a automotive repair shop. Well, I'd be a lot better at it now because I have all these hard marketing skills that I learned doing digital marketing. Nothing's ever lost. The only time it's ever lost is if you're doing something that doesn't give you a return. That's the only time you'll ever get. You only not get a return on that time. So Hugo says, because at the moment I'm really busy, but I'm wondering how much time I would need to spend working doing SMMA. It's a great question, Hugo. So I think in the early stages, from like 0 to 10K, you could probably get away with doing, at the start, like at the very start, you're probably going to be doing like 5 or 6 hours a day. But once you're into the swing and you've got a couple of clients, you could probably get away with doing an hour or 2 a day. SMMA at the very start, like at the early stages, when it's just you and maybe 1 or 2 contractors, is actually quite easy to run because you won't have many clients. When the clients start coming is when the time starts coming. So it's actually a really good business to start because you can start after hours. And what you could do, Hugo, is if let's say you're in the US and your time zone, you're working during the day there, target clients in another time zone. Target clients in Europe or Australia where the time zone's different, and work nights. So work during the day and then at nights for a few hours, go and target, say, Australians. That's definitely a good way to do it. Any Queen vlogs? How you doing? Thanks for jumping in. JDM Life, I started my business in 2000, which is waterproofing. Yeah, that's a great example. So I'm sure over the last 22 years, you've learned a lot of skills and probably changed businesses and do different things. But yeah, Hugo, you can do an SMMA. You can do it in an hour or two a day at the start. 10 to 20, it will require more of your time. But by that point, you're probably at the point where you're ready to quit your job anyway and pursue it. Like I said, we're doing $100,000 months in the marketing space now. I've got 14 staff, and it's it's a full-time job. Like anyone that I see this a lot. Everyone thinks SMMA is drinking 4 hours, working 4 hours a week and sitting on a beach. If you're doing it to the scale, if you're doing it at any scale, it's not. It's a full-time job. I work from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. like every other person out there. Admittedly, there's a lot more freedoms. Like I get to choose when I work and bits and pieces. And, when my kids have school assemblies, I can go off and do that. That's the actual benefit of it. And SMMA is a really cash flow heavy business. So if you want to start a marketing agency, it's really cash flow heavy. It doesn't require stock. It only requires staff and subscriptions. So when you do get paid from people, you don't have the cash flow crunch liquidity issues that a brick and mortar business will generally have. So, JDM Life's waterproofing business, he's got to carry stock, he's got to carry supplies, he's got to pay for those supplies. And generally you'll have to pay for those supplies before he does the job. So you've got to have it's got higher cash flow requirements than say running an SMMA where your only expense is labor. And that labor is only used when you have clients. So it's a big difference, and it's probably the reason why digital service-based businesses are better, in my opinion, than brick and mortar service-based businesses, because there's less requirement for cash flow. And the beauty about that is it requires less money to start. So, you can get away with starting a good SMMA agency for less than $500 if you really got keen. For context, when I started my SMMA, my marketing agency, I put in about 60 grand to get it off the ground, paid myself back in a couple of months. It wasn't like it was dead money. And then Luke has mentioned that, Luke, g'day Jimmy, I'm currently FIFO in Western Australia on a 2-in-1 roster and looking at starting an email or copywriting agency. Any advice? Great question, Luke. Yeah. Do it. You get 2-in-1 roster, you got plenty of time to do it. So just to answer it when you get a sec, what's stopping you from doing it? What has stopped you from doing it right now? We talk about imperfect action here, and that's a seriously big part of it. It's like, what are your specific reasons for not starting an email marketing copywriting agency? JDM Life on TikTok, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning and I finish at 3 p.m. See, that's there's some days where I'm like, I could do that. That could be my life. There's some days where I'm like, yeah, actually it's nice to just wake up at 10:30 and finish it a little bit later. Everyone has different skills and everyone has different things that they do. So Luke, just get back to me with your question, mate. Senshi asks, last one, I promise. Nowadays, what type of businesses do you think will grow over the future and worth investing time and focus in? Another great question. So it depends on how far in the future we're looking. If I was to say the next 12 months, I would be investing in businesses that are actually required. So I wouldn't be investing time and energy into something like drop shipping right now, unless it was an essential product. I wouldn't be investing my time and energy into affiliate marketing right now, unless I was selling an affiliate product that was essential. The reason for that is that I believe that the economy is going to. No worries, JDM. Thanks for jumping in, mate. I appreciate it. I'm going live once a week, so I'd love to see you again if you get time. Thanks for jumping in. So the reason I wouldn't invest in a affiliate marketing agency or anything that was luxury products is because I believe that there is a real chance we will go into a recession. Hugo, good night, mate. Have a good sleep, and I'll catch you on the next live stream. Yeah, so I really believe that we are going to head into a recession. I'm not trying to fearmonger here, and I'm making a video on this as we speak. So next week there will be a video out on how to prepare for a recession, because I haven't necessarily lived through one myself except for 2008, but I was young, and so let me give you the case on why I think a risk coming, and then I'll talk about why I think that luxury products are going to be the ones I wouldn't do personally. So what's happening at the moment is that we have a whole cohort of people that have been given all this money, and then because you look out the window, right, everything looks fine. You look outside the window and everything looks fine. There's people spending money, people going about their day. Interest rates have gone up a lot. The cost of living has gone up a lot. Inflation has gone up a lot. And what's happening is people are getting boiled alive slowly in the pan. The frog in the pan, they're getting boiled alive slowly. So you've got all these people that are slowly dipping into savings. They're slowly dipping into the money that they've saved up during the COVID period, and they're using it. Now, my question is, what happens when that money runs out and the cost of living is still high, inflation's still going up, and interest rates are still rising? What happens then? You can't rely on debt, especially if interest rates are going up, the cost of debt goes up, and it's businesses as well. It's not just you and I on the street. It's businesses that have been loading up on debt because they thought that interest rates were going to stay low. So as a business, you sit there and go, I need this new piece of equipment. Well, I can get this piece of equipment for 2% interest right now, and I can make 20 grand a month on that. I can get the money from that and actually use that for to grow money. But now that money cost is set at 7%. They're like, well, actually, I can't afford this now. So the first thing to go during a recession is people stop spending money because they just don't have access to it. So your luxury goods are the first things to go. And generally, when you do affiliate marketing and dropshipping, you're selling products that people don't need. And if people don't need them, they're not going to buy them. So I'd be focusing on business to businesses services that are absolutely required. Now, marketing can fit into that category and can't fit into that category, but depending on how you position yourself as a marketing agency, you can take advantage of that. You position yourself about doing more done with you services. So when they're dropping other agencies, they can be like, well, I'll teach you how to do that. That could be one area as well. But yeah, I think investing in B2B sales, like a B2B service delivery, those kinds of things, appointment setting, lead generation is going to be the place I would focus if I was looking at something to do in 2023. Now, Luke has replied and said, I feel burnt out when I get from work doing 12-hour shifts every day. I find it hard to get time. I've got a good 30K, so quit finding going to an agency. That's what I did, man. So I gave myself 6 months and noticed with the current job that I was in. And I just went everything. I had no clients when I started the agency. And I quit I was earning about 250 grand a year. I quit that job and just went, okay, I'm just doing the agency. The beauty is when you burn the boats. So when you burn the boats and the only way you can go is forward, it's amazing what you'll get done if you have nothing else except to go forward and make the agency work. It's amazing how successful and how hard you'll push yourself to make it work. A lot of people want one foot in one camp and one foot in the other and aren't willing to commit to either. So I can't answer that question for you. All I can say is that there is a lot of money, time and energy, a lot of money and potential in email marketing and copywriting. And if it doesn't work, there's other services you can tack onto that are complementary that can expand your client base. To answer your question, any advice is that I would set a specific line in the sand of when I am going to quit my job. So I would suggest you do it because, look, if you're not enjoying that lifestyle, and it's a pretty tough lifestyle doing 2-in-1s, and you don't want to do that forever, you need to have some kind of timeline. So let's say it's 6 months or financial year or 12 months, whatever it is. You go, well, for the next 6 months, I'm going to work like a man possessed to get the hard skills to give myself the confidence that I can do this. And at 6 months, I've handed my resignation in. I'm quitting regardless of whether I'm ready or not. I'm quitting and throwing myself into the deep end. And then realize that you have 40 plus hours a week to make it work. That was the biggest thing I think that stops people is they get panicked because they're like, oh, what if I don't get clients? I'm like, dude, you got 40 hours in a week at a very minimum if you don't have kids or anything. You might have 100 hours a week if you're a single guy with no commitments. If you can't make something work with 100 hours of your time, energy, and effort being 100%, then you're never going to make anything work. And I tell people this all the time, people, younger people especially, that love gaming, and they're like, oh, I can't make an agency work. I don't have time. I was like, dude, if I told you that you could be a professional gamer, and all you had to do is do 100 hours a week, and you live, eat, sleep gaming, you would do that because it's what you want to do. That you just don't want to run an agency. That's why you don't want to do it. That's why you don't want to put the effort in. And there's a lot of people out there like that. So you need to be honest and pragmatic about yourself and go, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to get into the trench, not knowing and climb out of it, not knowing what's on the other side? Do I really want to change what I do and my life and my trajectory of my life by starting an agency and starting a business? If you do, and you're willing to put in 100 hours a week to make it work, then you're almost guaranteed to make it work. The reason people don't succeed in this space is because they're not willing to put in the work. They want it handed to them, whether it's through automation or whatever, but they just go, well, I'm starting an SMMA agency, clients should come to me. But they're not willing to put in the 50, 60 hours a week of outreach, or to get clients, or learn how to talk, or to do all the skills that are required to start. And that's the biggest problem, right? So that's all I would suggest to you, Luke. So Senshi, got to go, but thank you for all the great information. Keep up your great content. Thank you, much love. Thanks, mate. It's much appreciated. Is there any more questions, guys? I think I'm going to end this now. It's really hot in here today for some reason, so I'm cooking. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Again, let's do this again next week. If everyone's enjoyed this, I'll jump on same time next week and I can answer all your questions again. I love helping people. It doesn't matter if it's in the way I can, right? So I'm never going to give bullshit information, but I love helping people, and I love making sure that people get some value out of the time, energy, and effort I've taken over the last 35 years to grow as a human being. And if I can help people pursue things by just giving them a little bit of my thoughts, I will do that to the day I die. So if next week, if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask, just leave them in the comments. I will answer them next week like I did last week's questions. And hopefully we can help some people, get some people on track to work towards what they want to achieve. But thanks once again, guys, for watching, and I'll catch you all next week.